Hi, Jim. How are you?
Good. How you doing, Alex?
Pretty good. Very excited to meet you. Family's big fan of yours. We're walking around the house all the time quoting your routine. So, watching the film, I told them everybody who's in the movie, and we watched the movie. And after it was over, my wife said, "Who did Jim Gaffigan play?" Because you were so much in the character. So when we went back, she's like, "Oh, now I can hear it." How did you find this character? How did you figure out how to play the dad?
Gosh, it's this all went down during the pandemic. So I was and so it was really just a conversation with the director, him describing what he was hoping to accomplish with Lorenzo, who I portray. And because it was a very personal story, like it's based on his childhood kind of thing. He's not a sea monster, but it's inspired by his childhood on the Italian Riviera. He kind of communicated that, he wanted the father to be, distracted, but well-intended and, certainly not disinterested, and I was like, I'm distracted, but cares parent, I could do that. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And was it a big deal in your house that you were in a Pixar movie?
Absolutely. It's like the only time my kids have ever been impressed by anything I've done.
So this is not the first time you've done voice work for an animated film. So is the Pixar process, the way that they approach movie making, is that something that, was there anything unique about it compared to other things you've worked on?
Some of it is guessing and hearing rumors about how Pixar does things, because even in the other animated things, I'm just in a booth, you know what I mean? And often, like when I've done some Bob's Burgers, maybe there's some other people in the room that I'm doing lines with, or they're on, they're virtual via, Zoom or something. But I would say, yeah, no, there's the magic of Pixar is kind of, it's separate, but I think that they've got to figure it out. So I don't mean to dodge the question. It's, because I've really enjoyed all the other animated things I've worked on. It's probably some culture back in, Northern California that they figured out.
And from the script, how much of this character was you improvising or changing things around, and how much of it was already on the page?
I think a lot of it was, it's weird because, some of it is I have a horrible memory, but, and you always want to add value to a script, to a scene, but you also don't want to just improvise and not help the director get their vision. So there was definitely some improvising, but it was guided. I think that I definitely always want to be a partner. Some of it's selfishly motivated. I want people to hire me again, but I've been on the other side being the executive producer of a show. So I want to add value. I want to, meaning pitch ideas, but if they don't take them, I don't want, I'm not going to like make a fuss. So I couldn't even tell you what lines were improvised. You know what I mean? Because in some ways, when I think of like any director or any writer director doing a project, I want to just be a good partner. So it's like, I want to, if I'm improvising something, it's only useful to what they're trying to accomplish.
Awesome. Well, I love the movie. My kids love the movie. I'm sure everybody's going to really love it. So thank you again for your time. It was a pleasure.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Hey, Alex. Nice to meet you.
You too. How are you?
Good.
So, beautiful film. Congratulations. I absolutely loved it. I watched it with my family, and my two sons were they absolutely loved every moment of the film. And as we were watching it, because I forced them to watch a lot of animation with me, they kept picking out different things that it was reminding them of from different films, different studios, and things like that. Were there any particular films that more than others inspired you when making this film?
Yeah, I mean, the story pedigree, the movies we talked about very early on were movies like Stand By Me, Breaking Away, and those are a little bit more in the DNA of the story. And then there's, more the things I love and that have influenced my work. And, of course, Miyazaki is a huge influence on me. I grew up in Italy where we would watch all sorts of Japanese cartoons in the 80s. And Future Boy Kona, one of his early TV series, was something I realized later watching his movies, like, wait, there was one that I loved the best. And so there's obviously something that I wanted to bring a bit from the way that he tells stories. There's a sense of wonder, a sense of the kid world, the true kid world that we wanted to achieve as well. And that's wonderful, wondrous gaze toward nature. That was kind of something that I just kind of, I've been looking at his work for forever. So there's many movies that I love of his. It's always hard to pick a favorite, but I think of things like Totoro, where you're so much with the kids' world, or Spirited Away, or Porco Rosso for sure was one that stood out for me because the first time I watched this in the 90s, it was just like, oh my gosh, you can tell these kind of stories. This is a strange pace. It's different. So wanting to make something different with a different look, with a different pace was something that felt really interesting. Having made my short, also, I came from this place of something very fantastical, lyrical. So the puzzle was like, how can we make that work in a movie, which is a bit of a different beast, that needs to do much more. So that was the interesting challenge of it. As far as, and then we watched a ton of Italian movies, Fellini and his wonderful imagination, since that's probably not what your kids are thinking, but there's a lot of that. And even Aardman, I just love stop motion and how beautifully their expressions move. Some 2D and some even stop motion inspired us.
And Andrea, this is a very intimate film compared to some of the more epic, gigantic things that have come out of Pixar. What do you feel are the values or the elements of this that really fit with all the other films that you've made?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like every film has its own unique personality, really. And I think this film really wanted to be in that childlike perspective. It really wanted to even dig into, the stakes of the film are childlike stakes. I mean, we love the fact that it's a little silly to think you're going to go explore the world on a Vespa, but for a kid, that's a dream you might really, that they would really invest in and could be incredibly motivating and be their shared vision. So I think this one really dives into both that childlike perspective as well as really sort of the love letter to Italy. And it's fun to kind of wrap a few of these different elements together. So I think it was fun to really explore those two angles.
And for either of you, was there anything during a pandemic, partially, there's a lot of things that have changed for the industry. Was there anything that you found that you discovered making this film that sets it apart from previous experiences because of the pandemic?
Well, it was definitely unforeseen big puzzle to sort out. I mean, I think early on when we all first found ourselves needing to shelter in place and work from home, we didn't know if we could proceed. And the first big obstacle was recording the actors. And if you don't have the dialogue, you can't make the film. So, I think what it brought out in everybody that was really remarkable and inspiring was this incredible ingenuity and flexibility. I mean, we've been you can get a little calcified in the processes you take and all of that. And this obviously sort of blew all that wide open. So I think it was wonderful to just see how creative everybody could be. And we just really appreciated all that our crew gave, even during a really difficult time.
And Enrico, for you, the entire time my kids were watching it, they were hoping for a connection between La Luna and this film. Was there any thought of maybe connecting the two worlds, or is there something that we didn't catch in the film that does connect them?
That's a good question. Yeah, I don't think there is a story outward connection. The couple that I love to think of is it's that Massimo. A few people have asked me about Massimo because he does look a lot like the dad in
Yes.
Luna. And the way I like to explain it is like I hired the same character, you know. There's something that, and you know, of course, it's a joke, but it's also true because I'm a big fan of Wes Anderson, for example, and there is something I experienced Wes Anderson's movie recently with my daughter, who's 13. She's just at that age that she can appreciate them. And boy, the smile you would see on her face when she go like, "Wait, oh, it's that guy. Oh, it's this actor. Oh, it's Bill Murray again." Or, you know what I mean? Like, there is something about that we never do in animation, right? That doesn't exist. So
Right.
in my small way, that was me kind of hiring the same person. And I would argue there's some inspiration in Luca that comes from that boy, the way how wide-eyed is that I borrowed from myself. As a world, I think it's, you know, it's a little bit of a different era. I always thought of La Luna as even older. You know, there's a timelessness, of course, but maybe they come from that town, but maybe like many years before. But we did not put any overt kind of connections in the movie.
Well, it's a beautiful film. I absolutely loved it. I can't wait for everybody to see it. And I really thank you both for your time.
Thank you.
Alex.
Nice to meet you.
You too.
Thank you. Cheers.